As we await the historic Supreme Court decision in NYSRPA versus Bruen, I've warned you repeatedly, the danger to this case is that the Supreme Court may fail to deal with so-called sensitive places. And what are sensitive places? They are euphemisms for gun-free zones, as defined by the anti-gun politicians in our states. Hey folks, I'm Mark Smith, host of the Four Boxes Diner, proud American gun owner, constitutional attorney, New York Times bestselling author, and member of the United States Supreme Court Bar. If you haven't subscribed to the Four Boxes Diner, please do so. Show your support for the Second Amendment. And I also want to ask you one other thing, which is this. Please start sharing my videos everywhere you can. I ask you this because it seems to me that although we've gotten a lot of views, almost 5 million views in the last several months, it's unclear just how many people have been able to see these videos. And if you start to share them with your friends, we would appreciate it to spread the word about the right to keep and bear arms. I want to talk about gun-free zones, or so-called sensitive places. This is very important. As you may recall, in this 2008 Supreme Court decision of Heller versus the District of Columbia, the Supreme Court said you have a right to have a gun in your home, unlocked and loaded for self-defense. But in the context of that opinion, because Justice Kennedy, who was kind of squishy on everything, as you probably know, Justice Kennedy insisted that Justice Scalia put the following kind of paragraph in that decision. It says that nothing about the Heller decision right now touches on what is a sensitive place, meaning a place where the government is still allowed to ban the possession of firearms, such as schools and government buildings. Now, the reason why this is important is because many states and jurisdictions across the country, especially in the bad gun places, have taken advantage of the so-called sensitive places exception to having firearms. Again, when you hear the phrase sensitive places, that is simply a legalistic term for gun-free zones because they're sensitive places. Now, if the Supreme Court doesn't address this specifically, and I'm not sure they're going to, this is going to be a problem, and I'm going to tell you why. And we've talked about this on this channel before, but I think we should do it again because it's very important. If the Supreme Court in NYSRPA versus Bruen comes out with what I think they're going to come out to say that the Second Amendment protects not just the right to keep firearms, which is Heller, meaning you have the right to possess firearms, but also the right to bear firearms. To bear. To keep means to have. To bear means to carry. To carry firearms outside in public for self-defense. But if the Supreme Court doesn't address the sensitive places idea, then let me tell you what's about to happen. And I'm going to give you a terrible example of this. What will happen is that all these states like New York and California are going to pass laws immediately that say basically everything is a sensitive place and you're not allowed to have guns in it. They're just going to say every restaurant, every building, every street corner, every school, plus 1,000 feet from the school, they're going to define the entire state essentially as a sensitive place. So you may have the right to carry guns in a place like New York State, but the reality is you will not practically be able to do so because everything is a sensitive place that they ban anyone from having a gun there unless, of course, you're a government employee, meaning a law enforcement agency. Now, you may think, Mark, I think you're being a little hyperbolic and crazy. Has this ever occurred before? And the answer is yes, it has. So I want to talk to you about what the District of Columbia did after a decision called Wren by the Court of Appeals in the District of Columbia said that everyone in D.C. had a right to bear arms to carry guns outside the home in public. And then the District of Columbia moved to a shall-issue jurisdiction. And this is very interesting. I don't know how, when we think of the District of Columbia or D.C., we think it's an anti-gun place. And it is. But did you know that the District of Columbia right now is actually a shall-issue jurisdiction? Which means that if you apply for a carry permit in D.C., and unless you're a criminal, a felon, or are ineligible to touch a gun for some other reason, you are allowed to get a carry permit that allows you to carry a handgun in the District of Columbia. Sounds great, right? They're pro-gun. Not so fast. You see, what happened in the District of Columbia is they passed a law about sensitive places. And they basically have defined the entire city of D.C. as a sensitive place. Let me show you how they did it. I'm about to read to you, and I'll put the link below so you can check me out. I'm about to read to you the list of places where even if you have a carry permit in D.C., you're not allowed to carry. Are you ready? It's a long list. You shall not carry a pistol while consuming alcohol or while impaired. You may not have a firearm on you in a building or an office occupied by the District of Columbia or its agencies. So if you're in a tall office building that has an office in it run by the District of Columbia, doesn't look like you can carry a gun there. You're not allowed to have a gun in the building and grounds, including any adjacent parking lot of a child care facility, preschool, elementary or secondary school, or public or private college or university. Can't have a gun anywhere near school, apparently. You can't have a gun in a hospital or an office where medical or mental health services are primary services being provided, which means you can't take a gun to your doctors or apparently to your dentist in D.C., even if you have a carry permit. You can't bring it to a penal institution, a secure juvenile residential facility, or a halfway house. You can't bring it to a polling place while voting is occurring. You can't bring your concealed carry gun on public transportation, on a public transportation vehicle, including the Metro Rail transit system in the station, which means you can't carry a gun on you when you're in the metro, the subway system, or the buses going to work. You can't have a gun in any premises where alcohol is served, sold, or consumed. So that means you can't go to, a chain restaurant that serves alcohol and sit far away from the bar, not consume any alcohol. You just can't have it in that such a restaurant. You can't bring your gun into any stadium or arena. You can't bring your gun to any public gathering or a special event open to the public when the organizer has provided notice and posted a signage prohibiting the carrying of pistols in advance of the gathering. You can't bring the gun. Your concealed carry, remember, you have a permit to carry a gun. You've already been vetted by the law enforcement. But you can't bring it on any of the public memorials on the National Mall or along the tidal basin or in any area where firearms are prohibited under federal law or by a federal agency, including the U.S. Capitol buildings and grounds. You can't carry it anywhere near the White House. You can't carry your gun even though you have a carry permit from the District of Columbia's Police Department, anywhere near the U.S. Naval Observatory and grounds. And get this is kind of a shocking one in my opinion. I don't even know how you comply with this. So again, you have a concealed carry permit from the District of Columbia, you're carrying your gun, and you're not to have the gun, ready for this, when a dignitary or high-ranking official of the United States or a state, local, or foreign government is moving under the protection of the D.C. Police Department, called the Metropolitan Police Department, the United States Secret Service, the U.S. Capitol Police, or any other law enforcement agency that does not include a distance, ready for this, greater than 1,000 feet from the moving dignitary. That means you are not allowed to be within 1,000 feet of like a motorcade. Now they say, provided that notice has been given by signs or an officer's order, but the reality is if you're within 1,000 feet of a motorcade protecting some foreign dignitary, well, even if you have a carry permit, you've become a criminal. You've committed a crime. Nor can you bring your gun, even with a carry permit, to a public demonstration in a public place, assuming they give you some notice there's no guns allowed, which of course they always do, I'm sure, in D.C. You can't bring it on private residential property unless authorized by the property owner. So you can't bring a gun to your friend's house unless you ask him for permission. You can't bring your gun with a concealed carry permit in D.C. to a place of religious worship unless it's authorized by the owner or the authorized agent of the place of worship. Nor can you bring a gun on any non-residential property that's posted with conspicuous signage prohibiting the carrying of concealed pistol. Well, what's the point of being allowed to carry if they literally have banned the entire city of D.C. from being allowed to carry? So the point here is this, folks. When the Supreme Court issues NYSRPA versus Bruin that says you have a right to carry guns outside the home, unlocked and loaded in preparation of self-defense, I am betting you dollars to donuts right now that if the Supreme Court doesn't specifically cut down and narrow the scope of so-called sensitive places, you can watch and bet me this is what's going to happen. These anti-gun states like New York, California, and Hawaii are going to basically look for ways to define the entire state as a sensitive place or a gun-free zone. So even if you get a permit to carry a gun outside the home in those states, the reality is there'll be nowhere for you to bring the gun. And that will not be a bug. That will be a feature. That's what happened in the District of Columbia when they were told they had to move by a court order to a shall issue permitting system. The laws that I just described where you're not allowed to have a gun applied, which is basically the whole city. And I'll put some articles about that down below in the description. Okay, I hope you learned something here today at the Four Boxes Diner. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. And we'll see you again here at the Four Boxes Diner.
Orders up. Table 2A.